Morning, everybody. Hope you're having a great week so far on the uh, backside of the week, headed towards the weekend. And reminds me of an old song from my high school days. Everybody's working for the weekend. Thank you for spending a few minutes this morning here. If you want to follow along, Genesis chapter 37, beginning in verse number 36, beginning and ending in verse 36. Just want to look at one verse. Not a whole lot there, but I do think there's kind of an underlying lesson that I want to see if we can drag out of this verse. Meanwhile, the Midianites had sold him in Egypt to Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh, the captain of the guard. If you were to back up and somehow I could erase your memory where you didn't know the story of Joseph, and you didn't know how it ends up and how he ultimately I won't say how he ends up. Well, I've already went too far. In case you don't know, it all works out, okay? Without giving you all the details. It's going to work out eventually. But if we were to stop right here and you didn't know the rest of the story, you would think, what a messed up family, what a disaster of a situation, what horrible brothers, what a terrible father. Poor Joseph. I mean, there's not a whole lot good you can say about the situation. There wasn't, much that they could, much you can. There's not a lot of redeeming characteristics going on here. Joseph, after being sold, is taken into Egypt. He is sold to Potiphar, so now he's a second-hand slave. Potiphar is an official in Pharaoh's army. Some have said probably means he is the in charge of the Pharaoh's bodyguards, and yet again it looks terrible. However, what we see as we step back and we look at the whole story, again, even the parts of this story that we haven't got to yet, we know that the brothers, God made sure at this point that the brothers who had discussed killing Joseph didn't. They threw him into a pit. The Midianites, the traders, they came by at just the right moment for them to go, hey, well, maybe we won't kill him. We can make more money by selling him. That they actually did sell him, that they came to an agreeable price, that they agreed to buy, that there was an agreement made there, that of all the places they could take Joseph, they went to Egypt. And again, we'll see as we go on in the story why that matters. They take Joseph to Egypt at just the right time, where other events are going to come together in the right sequence at the right time for everyone's benefit. Joseph was sold to Potiphar. Of all the places he could have ended up as a slave, he ended up at Potiphar's house. He ended up from there. Some other events happened. Again, I'll try not to give away too much of the story for those who may not know all that ends up happening here. But what my point here this morning is again, if you were to look at Joseph's story this far, you say, and he's blessed of God. I don't want any of that. If that's what it means to be blessed of God, I don't want to be part of it. But the truth is, when we step back and as we continue to unpack this story, we find out that all of these events work together, as the New Testament tells us. All things work together for good to those that love Him and are called according to His purpose. It's much like one of my favorite thoughts on this topic is, I don't know how many of you, I can remember as a child watching my grandma make a cake and smelling the vanilla flavoring and thinking that smelled good and tasting it. I don't know if you've ever tasted vanilla flavoring, but honestly, I would just about as soon lick the bottom of my shoe. If you've ever eaten straight flour, or any of the individual ingredients of a cake. None of them, straight cocoa powder, is not very good. But when you take all of those items, the Crisco, the other things that are part of that mix, when you take those things and you bring them together in the right order and the right measurements, it ends up making a delicious cake. Any one of these individual pieces look terrible, but God is bringing them together to make something wonderful that ultimately will save all of God's people. I would encourage you today to keep that story in mind, and we don't have time to completely just analyze every nook and cranny, twist and turn in the story, but you know enough now about what Joseph has went through, and many of you know the end of the story, how it's going to end up. But what we see is that even when things appear to be going south in the worst way, that our God is still on the throne. In my church, I'm currently preaching through the book of Revelation. And one of the things that I started stressing just in the last week with where we are in the book is that many things in the book of Revelation look terrible. And there's a lot of lessons and a lot of things in the book of Revelation, but here's the main one to take away from it. When it's all said and done, God wins. God comes out on top. It may look bad for a while, but God wins. For Joseph, things may look bad, but God wins. I don't know what you're going through today. I don't know what your battles you're facing. I don't know what you're dealing with, but I want to assure you that if you're a child of God, all things work together for good for those who love Him. Again, I was almost done. I'm going to say one more. That verse doesn't say all things are good. It says all things work together for good. There are some bad things that come along, but God works them out just as He's doing in the life of Joseph. You think about it. Have a great day. We'll see you here tomorrow morning.